It's Sunday in South Carolina. Welcome to the Touchdowns podcast presented by Harrison Williamson Cross Country Mortgage. We appreciate everyone who's been listening to us and watching us. Please go like and subscribe on your platform of choice, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast. Also hit us with a follow on Instagram and Twitter, as well as TikTok. We appreciate everyone who tunes in and listens to us. Got a fun show today. Again, the off-season news cycle, Thomas, just keeps on rolling. It feels like the season ended a couple weeks ago, but we're still having a ton to talk about as it relates to this team and how it's starting to take form for next year. Right off the bat, the big report that came out since our last episode was from the Big Spur and then multiple other. There was Pete Thamel and a lot of the national guys picked up the story as well. But I think Big Spur had the initial breaking news that LaNorris Sellers is nearing, a finalized deal to come back to USC next season. This is the news we wanted to hear. So I know the pen's not to the paper, it sounds like, but this is a great report from our perspective. You and I believe that LaNorris is a key piece to what will be what we needed to do to have a successful 2026. So right off the bat, we've talked a lot about LaNorris, but what are you thinking? You got your LaNorris shades on, so clearly know that you're happy. But tell us your thoughts on this big announcement or this report on LaNorris coming back.
Yeah, I had to bust out the custom LaNorris Sellers Ray-Bans. Ordered these over the summer. Kind of saw them as a memorabilia piece. I was expecting him to win the Heisman this year and go pro. Obviously, that didn't play out how any of us were hoping or expecting. And then, I got these sunglasses that I've never worn sitting in my room, and we don't even know if he's coming back to school. So with the announcement that things are just about finalized, that he will be returning to South Carolina, I figured I'd throw him on for this episode. But yeah, I couldn't be happier that we were able to make this work. It was reported last year that Auburn came after him hard. I don't know how close he was to leaving last year. I don't know if anyone really courted him this year. I'm sure that we're going to compensate him well, but at the same time, I'm sure he could have gotten more money if he left. So I'm happy that we were able to keep him happy. It's been stated by Beamer that LaNorris did have a lot of, he was very heavily involved in the offensive coordinator hire. He was watching tape on all three of the candidates that we were kind of looking at, and I'm happy that he's pleased with Briles. I'm pleased with the OC hire as well. But yeah, just LaNorris coming back is a massive piece for what we need to be good in 2026. But it just Beamer is kind of on fire right now as far as the offseason goes. He flipped Julian Walker on National Signing Day. He makes an offensive coordinator hire that the fan base can get behind. He gets LaNorris to come back. The next steps are just retaining the rest of the key pieces on the roster and attacking the portal. So yeah, I couldn't be happier though.
Yeah, I think the other names that people are curious about, especially when it comes to roster retention, are Nick Harbor and Dylan Stewart. I think LaNorris coming back improves our chances of Nick coming back. I think They made some great plays this year, and the development of Nick is, they both need more development, and I think the two of them together, they have some unfinished business and can build something next year. Just having going out in a more successful manner of the college game, and also both of them improving their draft stock. I think it just depends on who you ask, but I know some people still have Nick as a kind of a top 50 guy in the NFL draft, even though he's not a pure route runner. He doesn't have the best hands, and those are all things he can work on. So I think that's going to be key for him coming back and working with LaNorris, and they can grow and develop together. So I think landing a commitment from LaNorris to come back only improves our chances of Nick coming back. And then you've talked about it a lot with Dylan and just how strong his relationship is with Sterling Lucas and some of the other defensive coaches. So he doesn't have the option to go to the NFL like LaNorris and Nick have in their decision-making process. So really for Dylan, it's who do I want to play for next year in college? He's going to get compensation no matter where he looks. He'll have money, but I just think he wants to play for Sterling Lucas. He's already spent 2 years in Columbia, and like I said, I want him back badly. I want him to get healthy. I want him to have an awesome junior year, and he's going to be a top 10 pick in next year's draft. So really looking forward to seeing what Nick and Dylan announce, and this is all very good news on LaNorris. I think that despite what happened this year, having experience at quarterback is going to be key when teams on our schedule, and we're gonna talk about our schedule for 2026 a little bit later on in this episode and break that down. They just recently, the SEC announced the schedules for all of the teams in 2026. So we'll take a look at that. But when you look at some of the first year head coaches and, having some experience coming back at quarterback, it's funny. We were hyped up this year by not just by our own fan base, but by we had national hype, and that hype stemmed from three people, really: Nick, Dylan, and LaNorris. And those three guys could be back on this team going into 2026. So it makes you feel good. The results weren't there this year, but the flashes were. And to have those three guys back on the roster with in a new offensive scheme, and then putting some pieces around them, maybe we were just a year early on what we were, where our expectations were going into 2025. So excited to see that play out. And like you said, I've been harping on it the past, since the Clemson game ended. I said, Beamer, I don't really give a rat's ass what you have to say to the media or any type of, things you want to offer to the fan base in these press conferences. I don't really care what you have to say. Go out and show me something. And he is really showing us something with the way he's attacking this offseason. You mentioned it. Great signing day. He got an offensive coordinator that the fan base can get behind, put some other coaches around him that seem to have the fan base excited. It looks like we're going to retain some of our key players, and we'll see what happens when the transfer portal opens. But yeah, this is an A+ off season so far for Shane, and he needed it. So what are some of the other, we talk Nick, Dylan, LaNorris, who are some of the other guys, Thomas, that you're hoping to see us retain? I know We've had a couple guys that have announced that they'll be in the portal. Jaron Willis, he was a backup linebacker. I think he had a lot of promise. He didn't get up on the field all that much in 2025, and maybe anticipated that being a similar story in 2026. So wanted to try his luck elsewhere where he could get more playing time. Nick Sharp, an offensive lineman, he had transferred in from Wake Forest and only played this year at South Carolina, and he'll be entering the portal as well. Again, we didn't play great at all on the offensive line, no matter who we put out there. But obviously, losing Nick Sharp affects depth, but I don't know that it's a detrimental loss to what our plans are for next year. And I expect us to go get some guys in the portal on the offensive line. So anyone you're on the existing roster, anyone you know outside of the big three that you're looking for us to really retain, and then your thoughts on some of the departures, whether that be via transfer portal or we had some guys announce that they'll be going to the NFL as well.
Yeah, well, Cisse and Kilgore have both announced that they're going pro, and based off of where they are projected, they absolutely should, and I'm happy for them. They deserve it. T. Gray just continues to churn out NFL guys.
DBU.
Whether it's a guy that we signed out of high school like Kilgore, or a guy that we brought in through the portal like Cisse. But yeah, Brady Hunt has announced that he's coming back, which I think is good. Anytime that you have a player that has played and has experience and was a contributor this year, and they decide to come back, I think that's a positive. Things didn't work out with Nick Sharp this year, and I wish him well, but I hope that we're able to upgrade from him with whoever we tried out there next year. As far as who else on the roster I want to keep, I want to keep anyone that played meaningful snaps on defense. So all of the linebackers have eligibility to come back, and I want them all back. I want Vicari, I want Judge, I want Gerald Kilgore, I want anyone that saw the field on defense this year that has eligibility remaining. I would like them back, and I think that we'll probably bring a running back in again just for numbers. And just because with a new running backs coach, he may have a guy that he has a relationship with, but I like Fuller and I like Howell. I would like to see us keep both of them if that makes sense for us. I do kind of anticipate us potentially losing one or two of the younger receivers, just because we weren't able to really share the rock this year, and I'm sure that all of those guys expected to play a bigger role in the offense than they ended up getting to. Although with the splash hire that we made at OC, like that might kind of rally them into staying. And like to your point with LaNorris coming back, I'm sure that makes all of the offensive players more comfortable about staying. But with that being said, like I expect us to take a receiver out of the portal. I expect us to take a tight end out of the portal, a running back, best available O-lineman, defensive tackle. If we can get an elite edge rusher, you can never have too many of those. If we can get another DB that can play man coverage, you can never have too many of those. So yeah, it's just we have a good core coming back. We definitely have needs, and then on top of that, just get the best available players. Like you can never have too much talent. You can never have too much depth. And if our budget allows us to sign a player that might not be quote unquote a position of need, but you never know what's going to happen once the season starts. It doesn't hurt to have extra bodies.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see a motivated, pissed off LaNorris next season. I really hope that he is on a warpath next year, because I just think, I don't know what it was this year. And I go back to the Vanderbilt game where he got hurt, and I just feel like the way he played was different since that moment. Like the way he was running, he wasn't trying to have any contact when he ran. He was running out of bounds. He was not getting the extra yards. He wasn't cutting north and south. Wasn't running north and south. It was a lot of east and west. And I know people were making a big deal of, he wasn't, after the pick against Clemson, he was on the sideline and he was smiling or what. We were at the game. I didn't see it, but people were making a big deal of that. He wasn't sad or upset or mad. He was still smiling on the sideline, even though we, had just lost and he had thrown a pick to pretty much end the game. But I was, trolling some people on Twitter that a lot of people had the opinion that when this report came out on LaNorris that he got bad advice and he should transfer to somewhere where he could develop better and all this shit. And so I'm really hoping and wanting to see a motivated, pissed off LaNorris in Kendall Briles' offense, and just for him to have a Heisman-like season maybe that we thought we were going to get this year, but we didn't. And just almost, I guess you could call it a redemption tour. And obviously, doesn't matter. I don't really care about his stats or if he wins the Heisman. If we don't make the playoff or whatever, that's the ultimate goal, is for us to get in the playoff and have a chance to win it all. But I'm interested to see what he does and what Kendall Briles can do with him. And like you talked about, some of these young receivers, I mean, we have about 6 or 7 4-star receivers in the room. And then we have Nick, like, as a 5-star guy. He's maybe more touted as an athlete than a receiver when he had his 5-star label. But I mean, we have plenty of talent in that room.
I think the only guy on the roster that's not a 4-star is Jaden, and he played more than most of the 4-star guys this year. And that could be because of his brother, and like we were trying to keep both of them happy. But he played well. Like the play that he made against Coastal was a great play. Like he didn't have bad drops. He got open. He made plays after the catch. Like he played well. So yeah, I mean, I still want us to go grab like a true number 1, because even if Nick gets better, there are things that he does at an elite level. Like he's an elite deep threat, but I want a safety net for LaNorris, like on 3rd and medium. And
I was about to say, it'd just be nice to have a sure-handed guy on third down.
We just need a guy that can beat man and be open and catch the ball on 3rd and 7 or 3rd and 8. And I don't know if Nick will be that. I mean, maybe
hopefully Murph or Brian Rowe or one of these guys could become
Jacobs could be that as well. But if we can get somebody like that out of the portal, let's take him, because both of us, wanted Conception last year, and he had a great year at A&M, and they're better because of him. And I don't know that any receiver would have fixed our O-line problems or Shula's play calling, but it certainly couldn't have hurt, and it certainly can only help Briles' system next year.
Yeah, that is definitely something to watch, is that receiver room and what impact does the Briles hire have on that room, and what these guys. because I think too, not only can we not really spread the ball, but
so
what's up now?
We're keeping Fury, so that helps retention of that room as well.
Yeah, I'm just saying though, like just from not even the opportunities for targets, but like just the format. We ran a ton of 2 tight end stuff. We didn't run a lot of formations this year where we could get 4 or 5 receivers on the field. At most we typically would have 3 receivers on the field, and when you got a room of 9 guys, it's hard to. I think in Bryle's system, we're going to see a lot more, 4 wideouts on the field, which is going to give these guys opportunities to play and be involved, and so maybe that's attractive to some of these younger receivers that maybe they were like, what the hell? I didn't get a lot of love this year, which no one in that room really did. Dre Jacobs stepped up and had some big games, and obviously Nick had some big plays, but there wasn't, like you said, we didn't have a guy like Casey Concepcion that we could trust on 3rd down, and that definitely hurt us. And so hopefully one of those guys can step up, or we can go get a guy in the portal. But it's going to be. That's the crazy thing about college football nowadays. It's going to be a crazy 2-week window in January when the portal opens. Again, some of these things that have happened around the country as well are going to affect that. All these coaching changes and guys moving, Kiffin moving to LSU and the coaching carousel. Once there haven't been a lot of announcements made, but once the portal opens, there's going to be a mass exodus from a lot of programs just because of the coaching turnover, and that's a good thing for a program like us, because we have our guy in place, and we're not preparing for a bowl game, and we're not preparing for anything other than next season. So we should have a jump on some of the programs that maybe we're going up against, because they have other things that they're focusing on. So it's going to be January will be crazy, and it'll be interesting to see the changes in our roster and rosters around the country. But as we plan for 2026, we want to talk about the schedule in 2026. So the SEC had a schedule release special last Thursday, and we have officially received our schedule. We knew who we were playing and where we were playing. Now we know when we're playing. And so what is your initial reaction to the schedule, Thomas, as it was released? And then maybe we can, dive into a couple different things on the schedule.
Yeah, so it's the first year of the 9-game conference schedule. So it's weird that we don't have like the cupcake week before the Clemson game, and we get both of the non-conference games that are not Clemson on the front end of the season. We open with Kent State, which was a replacement from the Miami game that we canceled. And unfortunately, until the committee is better and we figure out the strength of schedule metric and value it properly, we're going to continue to see teams, pulling out of these good non-conference matchups and replacing that with an easy win. Texas fans are still crying about the fact that if they had just played a cupcake instead of Ohio State, they would have had a better chance to be in the field this year. But yeah, I mean, with Kent State and Towson, we get the chance to start the season hot. That's 2 wins. And then you have Mississippi State at home. So we really should start the season strong. And then it's really interesting. We do not have 2 consecutive road games at any point in the season. It's, home away, home away, home away, all the way until the end after those first 3 home games. The bye week comes directly in the middle of the season. So we have 6 games, bye week, 6 games. And then as far as like Mississippi State is going to be considered in the bottom half of the SEC next year. Kentucky as well, and they have a new coach. I would say that most people would say Florida is in the bottom half of the SEC next year, and they have a new coach. Arkansas has been in the bottom half of the SEC for the past few years, and they're breaking in a new coach. So this may be the easiest schedule that we have had or we will have for quite some time. You never know what's going to happen. Kirby could get tired of NIL, or maybe the NFL comes calling, or he just retires earlier than people expect him to. DeBoer seems to be entrenched at Bama. He released a statement today saying that he's not interested in the Michigan job or really leaving. But yeah, unless there's some major shakeup with our permanent opponents, which are now Kentucky, Florida, and Georgia, I would say that this is going to be the easiest schedule that we have for quite some time. So with that being said, we need to do something with it. Like, if not this schedule with this team, like, when is it going to be a better opportunity for? And this is not Kool-Aid talk. This is just like breaking down the schedule. I'm not saying that will happen, but I'm saying if not with this lineup, when?
Yeah. No, I do think. I mean, it was funny. It was funny seeing Bama fans react to their schedule on Twitter. They have a stretch, from October 10th to November 14th. Georgia at Tennessee, Texas A&M at LSU, at Vanderbilt, and they were like, and I just was laughing because Bama fans were at. I mean, I'm not saying that that's an easy stretch by any means, but they were just like, oh my God, I can't believe this stretch of games, and I'm like, I'm looking at that, and that's just basically South Carolina's schedule every year.
Right.
I mean, it just look like, and that just how Bama fans were just like, oh my God, I can't believe this stretch. Like, fucking 9-game SEC schedule. Like, this is brutal. And I'm like, we do this year in, year out. This year, for example, we played at LSU, and then we played 4 playoff teams in a row: Ole Miss, Alabama, Texas A&M, and Oklahoma. The 6, 7, 8, 9 seeds in the playoff. We played them all in a row after being on the road at LSU. There's a 5-game stretch for you. And the funniest part too was then the Vanderbilt fans reacting to Bama including Vanderbilt in the stretch. Like,
right.
Vanderbilt, like, saying Vanderbilt is now a tough game, and who knows if they're going to be. I believe Clark Lee's a great coach, but I don't know if Vanderbilt's going to be.
The question with Vanderbilt for next season is, is Jared Curtis going to start as a true freshman, or are they going to try and bring somebody in with playing experience and let Jared Curtis develop? I
think they're going to start him day one.
Well, that's and here's the thing. I have been told this kid is a freak. Like, he is the real deal. Like, when when he was committed to Georgia and people were expecting him to go to Georgia, like, kind of the discussions within the Georgia program were like, yeah, like, we're trying to win this year. We're trying to win before he gets here. But, like, once he gets here, we're definitely going to get one. because
Yeah.
he's a stud. So now he's at Vanderbilt, and like he won't have the supporting cast there that he would have had at Georgia, but with everything that Clark Lee has done, and now, I mean, Vanderbilt has money. So, like, I know that people really haven't loved Pavia this season, and they didn't like how he reacted to losing the Heisman. But Vanderbilt has been in the college football news cycle the entire year, and I don't think they're going away. Is basically what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, it's definitely a different program. But yeah, I just thought it was definitely funny seeing Bama fans, including Vanderbilt, in their complaints of a tough stretch. But for me, looking at the Gamecock schedule, you touched on a few of the things that stood out to me immediately. Was definitely getting 3 first-year head coaches, at Arkansas, Florida, and Kentucky. That's a plus when you're playing programs that are trying to find their footing under new coaches. That the Swamp. I might have to try and make that trip and get some redemption down there. I'm 0-3 in the Swamp, but that's always a great place to go watch a game for any Gamecock fans that haven't been to the Swamp. I would highly recommend maybe pegging that game as a road trip. Obviously, at Oklahoma is a game that I think I want to go to Norman at some point and see a game. They're just a historic program, and while not a common opponent for Gamecock fans, that would be I think a fun trip. I've heard great things about Arkansas. So maybe that's an interesting trip. But I think, these are all, we get Georgia and Alabama, the 2 representatives of the SEC championship. That's tough, but I think having Georgia at home late in the year, that could bode well for us. That game's in Columbia on my birthday, actually. So that'll be, that's going to be a fun game. And then Bama, I just feel like we owe them one. Like, we've had them on the ropes the last 2 years. I'm surprised that.
Well, I mean, I think that's a game that, you spoke to. You want to see LaNorris come out with something to prove. Like, I think that'll be a game that he has circled because he had the fumble in Tuscaloosa 2 years ago, and he had the missed 2-point conversion. And then he had the fumble this year. So I just think that he and Nick and Dylan, like it'll be their 3rd year in a row playing Bama, their 2nd time in Tuscaloosa. And it's the first big game of the season. So I think that'll kind of be like, it's where we find out how good we are, and it could be the launching pad.
Yeah, and that's actually it's Bama's SEC home opener. They start with East Carolina, they play Kentucky on the road, and then they play Florida State in Tuscaloosa. So that'll be their SEC home opener. We don't need to overlook Mississippi State. I know they had a bad record this year. But, honestly, I'm looking at Mississippi State. They're a program that has a young, Jeff Lebby, and they're trying to build up their program. So I think they're probably a scarier out. And I think I like our chances better against Kentucky, Florida, and Arkansas, as compared to Mississippi State. But this is a manageable schedule.
Yeah.
What were you going to say? Something?
Does Shapen come back for Mississippi State?
Okay, so Shapen's a senior, and
I remember that. I remember that. Yeah, they benched Shapen for the Egg Bowl. No, yeah, he's decent. He's decent for
Okay.
sure.
So yeah, exactly. They got a young stud quarterback, but to your point, this is manageable. Like we don't have back-to-back road games. We have our bye. I like how our bye just kind of splits the season in half. The second half of the schedule is pretty tough, considering you have a road trip to Oklahoma, Tennessee. I'm curious to see where Tennessee is next year as a program, because I just feel like, this year they beat everyone they were supposed to, and they lost all the big games. So they were like one of those teams that they were average. They didn't beat any good teams, but they'll have a new defensive coordinator. I think Heupel too like that fan base is delusional, and so I think they're already getting stoking the fire on Heupel's hot seat. So like if they
the love affair between the Tennessee fans and Heupel has definitely cooled off. They 2 years ago, they're talking about him like when he beat Bama for that first time, when he ended the streak against Bama, he could do no wrong, and he's the best coach in the country, and you couldn't tell them any different. And they've kind of like some of the momentum between has just kind of slowed down with that.
Yeah. Well, and because realistically, he had him in the playoff in 2024, and I know they got blitzed by Ohio State, and then this year it's kind of like, okay, man, you went 8-4 or whatever their record was, but you didn't beat anyone worth a damn. So Tennessee just kind of sitting there. I think their fan base is just kind of sitting there, just like, this season was a dud. Even though we won 8 games, you almost are left thinking like, yeah, this wasn't even really an exciting season for the fan base. I'm just looking at their schedule. Yeah, they lost to Georgia, Bama, Oklahoma, and Vandy, the 4 ranked teams they played, and they had wins against Florida. I'm sure they enjoyed winning in the swamp, but Florida didn't have a good team, and they'll get to play in the Music City Bowl in Nashville, which is probably where a lot of Tennessee fans live. So I'm sure that'll be fun. But they're kind of at a crossroads as a program too, I think, and so that'll be interesting to see. I want to actually see who they play leading up to us. But this is, I like this schedule, just from a competitive sense, but it's also manageable. I guess, since we have an out of conference Power 4 rival, we're always going to have now, our 2 non-cons in the first 2 games of the year is what I would think going forward. And then, we'll get into SEC play, and then always have Clemson at the end of the year. So I like that. I think that's what all the Big Ten teams do. They stack 3 very winnable games in September, and allows their programs to kind of get the season going and get into the season. So I like that we have 2 very winnable games.
Well,
to kind of break in the new offense, and
especially with us breaking in a new OC, I think it's more important this year than it will be in most years that we have the 2 tune-up games in the beginning. Because if you had Kent State or Towson week 10, where we've already lost a game we shouldn't have lost because we just had a bad week, then it just doesn't really, them being in the front is good, and I think is important.
Yeah, no doubt. We'll and we'll break this down even more as we get closer to the 2026 season. But just those are some initial thoughts. This just came out a couple days ago for all SEC teams, so definitely something we wanted to talk about, and we'll continue to dissect it as we get closer to next season. But let's talk a little Courtcox chatter presented by Cajun Cousins. We beat Citadel yesterday. We didn't do it in impressive fashion. Citadel is actually one of the worst teams in the country, and I'm not even doing this to joke on some of my Citadel buddies. They legit, I think, are like 361 out of 365 in KenPom. So yeah, we started off not too hot. I didn't get to watch the game, but it sounds like it was a rough start. We went on a run to end the first half, took a lead in the half, and ended up winning the game by I think 16. So again, these are games that we just need to win and move on. Our biggest game left in the non-con is on Tuesday night against Clemson. That game is in Clemson. I will be there, boots on the ground, with a couple of my Clemson buddies. So hopefully, a basketball win never heals a football loss, but at least it's an opportunity for some potential get back and just a small victory when especially when the team loses in football. But should be a good game. I watched. Clemson's got a pretty solid team. They don't have a stud, quote unquote. They just have a bunch of dudes that are pretty good. They had BYU, who's a great team, on the ropes in Madison Square Garden, and AJ DeBonsta just went on. I mean, it was as a hate watch, it was incredible. I mean, BYU came back from 23 down, and DeBonsta was scoring. He was throwing alley-oops. They were dunking all over Clemson in the second half. And then they hit a buzzer beater three to win the game. So that was an enjoyable game for the Jimmy V Classic. And I think from our perspective, we're just going to have to shoot the ball to win some of these games against teams that are even par or better than us. The three ball is going to be our great separator, and we're still struggling to rebound. And this win would go along. If we can get a win on Tuesday, that's going to be a really quality win in the non-conference. If we do start to get into tournament discussions and bubble discussions, if we can play well in the SEC, and any opportunity to beat Clemson is a great opportunity. So we want to beat them. Football is king, but I want to beat them in everything. So it'll be fun to go to the game, and I look for we'll talk about the game in more length and detail on Wednesday's episode. That game is Tuesday night, so tune in, Gamecock fans, to watch that game.
Michi crossed the 1,000-point threshold, didn't he, against the Citadel?
I did not see that.
Yeah.
He did? Cool.
Shout out Michi. He has 1,000 points as a Gamecock. So, we didn't cover against the Citadel, but just got to win those games. And like you said, if we do beat Clemson, that's a great resume booster at the end of the season. That if we're on the bubble or we're on the fence, that could be a win that kind of tips the scale in our favor. So
yeah,
got to find a way
absolutely. You need those non-conference wins to separate. Especially if you're getting compared to another SEC team that has a similar conference record and a similar resume. They're going to go look at the non-con and who you played, who you beat. And so we need to get to this. I'm pretty sure it'd be a quad one win because it's a road game. So let's do it. Let's just beat them. and so looking forward to that. So Wednesday, we will be recapping that basketball game. We'll be talking college football playoff. It felt weird that there weren't games this past weekend, but the playoff kicks off on Friday of this upcoming week. 2 games Friday night, 2 games Saturday. So we will be talking college football playoff, Gamecock basketball, and other news and notes from around the college football landscape. Maybe some more announcements of players coming back or players going into the portal. So as always, that's a fluid situation we'll be talking about until the portal officially opens up January 2nd. And then just bowl games. I know bowl games have lost their luster, but we'll still be doing the DB Blitz and having some picks, and we'll obviously be picking the college football playoff games, but we'll sprinkle in some bowl games as well. So always going to have the picks for the folks out there. But this is going to be a wrap on this episode. As always, we appreciate you for listening or watching. Please go subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast. Go follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And final thing, we are still doing a giveaway for the Vanderbilt game, SEC home opener. We have 4 tickets. There's an Instagram video reel. Go comment on that video to enter into the contest. We will be announcing that winner on Wednesday's episode as well. So, all the housekeeping done. That's a wrap on this episode. As always, go Cox.
Go Cox.